41, 42 episodes of basically if they would have gone through and got those 42 other episodes with Miranda Wright made and completed besides the 19 that survived, I think they had something going potentially planned for the KO and Dennis characters, and I think it could have involved Miranda. Go figure. But anyway, I really wish they would have given her somebody. Heck, you know what's funny? You have I think her name's Peach Blossom or something like that. Peach Blossom something at Fan Fiction and on DeviantArt. She does stories where she gives Miranda somebody, but she gives Miranda Bonkers and gives Bonkers Miranda. Weird, right? But I can see why she did it. Pretty much, they didn't give Miranda anybody officially in the freaking series. They gave Bonkers Bond. They had Lucky married to Deal. Where was Miranda's? What, were you going to put her with Sergeant Grady? Oh, hell no. You pretty much hinted that Grady, if he was to end up with anybody, was going to end up with Miranda's sister. But anyway, besides that, and again, I do wish they would have given her somebody. Bonkers and Fawn, Lucky and Deal definitely helped put a lot of romance in there. Then you get to the following year, and you had two shows. You had Gargoyles, and you had Aladdin. Aladdin, I don't think we have to speak for that much, except for maybe the fact that they gave us not one, not two, but three couples. Maybe four potentially. Here's what I'm saying. Of course you had Aladdin and Jasmine, one of my personal favorite Disney couples out there. But then you gave Genie somebody in Eden. No one saw that coming. And that worked great. They worked off each other perfectly. You gave Iago Thundra. That worked. And then to top it all off, you gave the Sultan the leader of the Gelifins. What else could you ask for? I mean, like I said, Bonkers had his romance in it that was established in that show. Aladdin topped it. Not just because you already had the establishment of Aladdin and Jasmine, but Disney added to it. And I applaud them for that. I really, really do. And then you get to Gargoyles, which is one of my personal favorite shows. You get to Goliath and Elisa, and you pretty much know right off the bat these two are going to end up together. You pretty much know that. You get to the final episode of the original run, and there's your answer. You got your answer right there. But then, here's what some people don't point out. Broadway and Angela. Yeah. You can pretty much say it doesn't count because it was on the Saturday morning deal with the Goliath Chronicles, but guess what? Jason, you mentioned that they continued that in your fan answer segment. You mentioned that they continued that into the Goliath Chronicles, the Elisa-Goliath relationship that they continued. They ran with it still. They also hinted right at the end, or in Hunter's Moon, and right at the end of it, that there was something between Broadway and Angela, and guess what? There was. Goliath Chronicles pretty much confirmed that Angela and Broadway became a couple, much to Brooklyn's disappointment. And then, you got Xanatos and Fox. At first an evil couple, and then changed their ways. There you go. Can't ask for any more than that. And they ended up becoming a mother and a father. And they got married. Figure. Then you had Demona. She ended up with, what's his name? The clone of Goliath. Can't think of his name right now. But she ended up with him temporarily until he created a clone of her. Get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying here? The point is, you Gargoyles had their share of romance as well, and they did a good job at building towards it. They didn't just rush it and all that, like, with no offense with the shows that I've mentioned, but they didn't rush it. They built it. They built towards these relationships, and they paid off tremendously. So that was good. That was really good. Then, of course, you've got other shows. Timon and Pumbaa had sort of a romantic deal, but they were two 30-minute episodes involving their past, or flashbacks, if you will. Timon with a potential princess of his meerkat village he came from, and Pumbaa with his tribe of warthogs he used to belong with. So you had that, and that was okay. That was okay. Then you get to Mighty Ducks. You get to 1996, you get to Mighty Ducks and Quack Pack. Now, Quack Pack pretty much established already. You had Donald and Daisy. Redesigned, modernized, whatever. They would steal that Donald and Daisy chemistry. Boom! Don't need to talk about it any more than that. Except for maybe the fact that they made Daisy more enthusiastic, more of a risk taker, basically more of somebody that gets everybody in trouble when she thinks she's going to do something right. Heck, I remember one of them, in fact, despite how you feel about Quack Pack, one of the episodes I watched, I think even recorded, they ended up getting captured by this crazed sergeant kind of guy, and they're basically being drugged behind a car, or they're tied up, basically, get behind a car or something like that. And she's basically blaming herself, says, I can't believe I was this, I can't believe I was that, I can't believe this. So idiot, she's blaming herself, she's saying all these things, she's calling herself stupid, so, blind and all that. And then she's looking for support, and she's like, I can't believe no one's disagreeing with me. I mean, yeah, they gave her potential, more personality than ever, and it helped, in a sense, make Daisy who she is today, and really establish that relationship with Donald all the way there. And then you get Mighty Ducks. Now, of course, there was no romance really hinted here, except maybe the potential. Mighty Ducks had the potential of asking, well, basically, let's put it this way. Mighty Ducks kind of like in that same category as Rescue Rangers. Asking the question, who would you prefer? Nosedive Mallory, Mallory Duke, or even the way they even paired it up or showed it up at times, Tanya Dive, Tanya Wing, Tanya Duke? Just saying. They kind of had that potential, and yes, even Mallory Wing, but still. They always, just like with Rescue Rangers, they made fans ask that question, who would they end up with? Who would each end up with in the end? And you know what? No one really knew. No one knew who they were going to end up with. Nobody. No fans knew. Trader Among Us gave us a huge hint that Mallory could get a little jealous. Not really like the, I want to hurt somebody jealous. More like the, sarcastic, I'm going to throw up kind of deal. Now, bringing down baby is another one. Nosedive gets this little baby, Saurian, shows affection towards Nosedive, and then when that happens, you kind of cut to a scene with Mallory and Tanya, and it's like, that's something they can actually get behind. But still, it's like it was just like with Rescue Rangers. It was up for debate. But get this, through fan fiction and even fan art, fans have already pretty much come out and said, Nosedive Mallory. Some have said Mallory Duke, Mallory Wing. Some have said Tanya Dukes, Tanya Dive, Mallory Wing, Tanya Wing. But I think fans pretty much, in their estimation, because some of the stories I read, kind of pretty much figured that just like with Rescue Rangers, Disney was hinting at Dive Mallory a little bit more, just a bit more than the others. And I know that sounds crazy. But I think that's what they were hinting at. Just by this much. Just by that much. And then you get to the tail end of it. Basically, when the Disney Afternoon in some markets wasn't even the Disney Afternoon anymore. And if it was... That's just a phone. That's Citibank. And even if it was, the Disney Afternoon was just barely a shell of itself. It was, like I said, it was just barely a shell of itself. It was only like an hour and a half block. And the shows they had was Hercules. They gave Phil somebody in Hercules, just for a brief time. Hercules never really had anybody because pretty much he was already established with Meg in the movie, and they did an episode sort of like a finale that went into that, sort of like a yearbook flash. It was Hercules in the yearbook. It was a flashback to that, which took place after the movie. And then we get 101 Dalmatians. Of course, you had Pongo and Purdy. Pongo and Purdy. You had Pongo and Purdy. You had Roger and Anita. And then you get the puppies. Now, at first you had Mooch. He had Two-Tone. Lucky, in one episode, ended up with having affections for this Rebecca. So, what was the real potential couple that came out of this besides the established ones and just the ones that were sort of like one shot, whatever? Well, one shot or not, this probably became the most popular out of them all. Like I say, one shot or not, this probably became the most popular out of all of 101 Dalmatians, the animated series. Lucky and Two-Tone. That's right. And I remember when this 11-minute short with that put them together came out. I remember when it first came on ABC, I looked at the name and I said, it's going to involve Lucky and Two-Tone. Because it said love 'em and flee 'em. And even though we only saw Two-Tone just for a few times during the weekday version of the show, we pretty much got an idea already that she was the romantic type. She'd be the kind that if you wanted to pair her with somebody, it's got to be Lucky. And they did just that. They did just that. And even though it was a one-episode deal, it still gets felt to this day. People still talk about it. Heck, I did a freaking fan vid, and people loved it. And that was only for one 11-minute short. Fans still talk about it with fan art, fan fiction. And even though it was, like I said, a one-shot deal, it still felt to this day. Lucky and Two-Tone. Yeah, you can say, well, wait a minute, didn't they put Two-Tone with Mooch? Yeah, but guess who Mooch ended up with towards the end of the series, even though it was brief? Cat Pig. Yeah, Cat Pig. Who did Rolly end up with, crazily? Surprisingly. Who did he end up with? He ended up with, I can't think of the pig's name right now, but he ended up with her. in a sense, at the end of one episode. It's like it's like 101 Dalmatians already had the established romantic couples in Pongo, Purdy, and Raja and Anita. Fine. But they needed something for the pups, for the younger generation. And most notably, who did they give us? Lucky and Two Tone. And who did they give us besides that? They gave us Rolly and the female pig, as well as they gave us Cat, Pig, and Mooch, even though that was a brief thing that ended in one episode. But the way they ended Love 'Em and Flee Them with Lucky and Two Tone, that gave you the idea that there was something there. They didn't expand on it, yeah, they didn't really expand on it that much, but it pretty much confirmed that any other episode with Two Tone being around with Mooch and all that came before, and that this with Lucky and Two Tone was officially now the way they were going. So, but anyway, that's all I'm really going to say in response to DFF Radio's episode 9, Shoutbox and Fan Answers with Jason as the host. I'm sorry this was in 3 parts. It's just a lot on my mind. Just a lot to talk about. And that's really all I'm going to say. So, you guys let me know what you think down below. Jason, let me know what you think. And again, you ever want to do something like a Q&A with me or talk something like that, PM me. We'll work something out. You may have to maybe type up the questions, and maybe I'll answer them through video or audio. And then maybe you could, read them off and do it like that or something. But we'll figure something out if you want to do something like that. But that's just my response to you guys. Again, I'm sorry it was in 3 parts. Just a lot to talk about. And let me know what you guys think, if you agree with what I had to say about the couples that I've mentioned, the impact they've had and stuff. And that's all I'm going to say. Talk to y'all later.